forward now, and if you didn't know about this week the Pentagon is expected to release its plan to close Guantanamo Bay Detention Center. That kind of slid under the headlines last week. Closing Gitmo has been one of President Obama's top priorities since taking office, and sources tell Fox News if the plan does not receive congressional approval, the president will use an executive order to make it happen anyway before he leaves office. Our political insiders are back. Pat, I want to go to you first with your thoughts.
My thoughts are these. The president has, first of all, shown he doesn't need the law anyway. This is the guy who'll do whatever. I thought there was congressional legislation that stopped him from doing this, but maybe there isn't. But the long term is the country, they're talking about bringing some of them right outside of my neighborhood in Charleston. I got to tell you, people in South Carolina, Colorado, and other places are going, and the rest of the country are not going to be pleased. But the president doesn't care about his party. He does this, and I guarantee you, you will see in the primaries. If I were Bernie Sanders, I would pin it all on Hillary. But he did the same thing on Keystone this week. Overwhelmingly popular, bipartisan support. And you know what? For a man who has led his party to disaster in the House, Senate, legislative, governor's races, he doesn't care about them. His attitude is, me and you people can go to hell.
Well, he didn't have to do the same thing
on Keystone. And that's basically how he treats his own party.
Because he got what he wanted. He didn't have to use an executive order on that, John.
Right. Well, this is his agenda. He's winding up his presidency. Looks like he wants to get this stuff done before the Democratic primaries get going. His agenda began in 2009.
Yeah, well,
he was going to close Gitmo then. He couldn't do it. He's
Right.
going to try to do it now. But look, the bigger issue isn't Gitmo. The bigger issue is American retreat in a war that is metastasizing all over the place. We've had unbelievably bad developments since we were last on your show a week ago. And the Russian airliner, ISIS taking credit, the Iranians doing more against us, hacking our government, China.
Today, Harris, the New York Times reports that our coalition against ISIS is falling apart. The Russian coalition in support of Assad is getting stronger and involves Hezbollah, Middle East terrorists. Harris, it's a complete disaster. John and Pat are absolutely right.
I want to step back for just a second with the Gitmo, though. And I see you. Is that a congressional tie clip you're wearing there?
Actually, no. This is a real president. This is President Reagan.
Oh, is that what that? I would
take a dead President Reagan over any other president.
John,
this guy,
goodness.
Things didn't happen badly when he was president.
I just want, the reason I'm asking is because Kat Church says on Twitter, serious question, can nothing be done to stop an executive order to close Guantanamo Bay?
I believe there is in the law, the president under the Defense Authorization Act has to notify Congress when he fools around. It is a military establishment. He doesn't have the power just to unilaterally close it, but transferring the inmates out of there, I thought there was a 90-day window when he had to alert Congress to it. So it's unclear how it's going to work.
They can
but
sue.
He'll get away with it.
They can sue him in federal court.
Good luck.
Seeking immediate relief. Candidly, I don't think we're going to succeed, but it does involve what I would call potentially extra legal activity by the president. Flouting the will of the American people.
This has a lot of people interested. Pat, maybe you can tackle this one. Colleen Whitman says, could the next president reverse the order to shut it down? Because we know, you mentioned Keystone before.
Yes.
I mean, Senator Marco Rubio came out moments later after the president made the announcement, said if he ends up in the White House, he'll just reverse it. Does, according to Colleen Whitman's question, does it work that way with this particular thing with Gitmo, Pat?
Yeah, it does. I mean, they can reverse it once they move them back, I suppose.
Yeah, but what do you do? You can't round these guys up again.
It's impractical.
Yes,
you can.
Supermax in Colorado.
Okay, but wait a minute. Go ahead, Pat.
They're in federal institutions or federal facilities, though they're not as safe as Guantanamo, but they can be rounded up and taken back, I guess. I'm not sure it would happen. I think that the utter disregard. Look, we're talking about the security of the United States. We had an incident this week that's unbelievable. We had two companies, one that's been being paid $1.5 billion, another $650 million, who were hiring Russians to donate, Russian nationals to do coding on the most sensitive defense information stuff we have and fill them with Russian viruses. They paid a fine. Nobody went to jail. Nobody in DOA, in the Defense Department overseeing it, was fired. And the guy who got the $12 million said, look what we're doing. No, you know what? We're talking about near treason. We're talking about our security. But no one, you don't hear this from anyone in Washington. No one is angry enough to stand up and say incompetence, crony capitalism, and destruction of national security, or the harming of national security, we ought to deal with. It's just an example.
Point. It is possible, Harris, that the Russians and Chinese have seen more of Hillary Clinton's emails than the American people.
But this one isn't just that. This is what Pat's talking about is a company called Computer Sciences Corporation. As Pat said, a $1.5 billion contract in 2014. And they're hiring Russians to write the code for the Pentagon, which could mean the entire
violation of
the United States.
You can't even make it up.
And they didn't. No one's going to jail. No one's losing their job.
So I know you guys want to talk about kind of the Gestalt view of foreign policy right now. So we're going to dive into that next.